For years, fans all over the world have speculated about what really happened between Can Yaman and Demet Özdemir. Their undeniable chemistry on-screen in Erkenci Kuss quickly spilled into real-life rumors, creating one of the most intense fandoms Turkish television had ever seen. But behind the curtain, behind the glamour, there was a truth carefully hidden, guarded not just by the stars themselves, but also by the people closest to them. Now, after years of silence, Can Yaman's manager has finally spoken, breaking the wall of mystery and revealing what really went on, including details that no one ever expected about Demet Özdemir. The story begins in Istanbul, back when Can Yaman was still just beginning to taste international fame. His manager, who had been by his side since the early days, watched as opportunities came flooding in. But with opportunity came pressure. And with pressure came whispers. According to the manager, the rumors surrounding Can and Demet were not just a product of fan imagination. There was truth, but also exaggeration. And as he explains it, people saw them together, they saw the looks, the closeness, but they didn't see the battles, the silence, the late-night calls that never came, the tears when the camera stopped rolling. One of the most shocking revelations from the manager is about a call that Demet supposedly made one night, desperately trying to reach Can. Fans had always believed it was just gossip, but according to him, that call was real. He says, "I remember Demet trying to call him. It was late, very late, and she wanted to talk. But Can never picked up. Not that night." And that was the beginning of the distance between them. Imagine that, one unanswered call could have changed everything. It's a detail so small, yet so powerful, and it explains why for years Demet herself has hinted at regrets, at moments lost. But the manager doesn't stop there. He reveals that Can, for all his strength and charisma, was deeply affected by Demet. He would pretend he was okay, he says, but behind the scenes, I saw him. He was restless. He was torn. He would ask me questions like, "Do you think she really cares? Do you think it's real, or is it all part of the show?" These questions ate at him, and for a man like Can Yaman, who had the world at his feet, it was Demet Özdemir who made him doubt, who made him vulnerable. The confession continues with stories of secret meetings. The manager admits that yes, there were nights when Can and Demet met far from the eyes of the press. They didn't always fight. Sometimes they laughed, sometimes they were just silent, sitting across from each other. There was love there, no matter what anyone says. But the problem, he explains, was timing. Can was on the verge of launching his career abroad, and Demet was still finding her own path. They were in love, but not free. And in the world of fame, not being free is the beginning of the end. The most emotional part of his testimony comes when he recalls seeing Can after one particular encounter with Demet. "He came to me and his eyes were red. I knew he had been crying. Can Yaman, the man everyone thinks is untouchable, had cried because of her. He didn't want anyone to know, but I knew. That's when I realized this wasn't just a rumor. This was love, and it was breaking him apart." And then, the manager turns the spotlight on Demet herself. He says that contrary to what many believed, Demet was not the cold one. She cared, maybe even more than Can. Demet, he says, was the one who tried to hold on. She sent messages, she asked mutual friends about him. She even waited for him outside his door one night, hoping he would come home. But he never showed up. That image of her waiting there, alone, it has never left me. These words paint a heartbreaking picture of two people caught between love and circumstances. And it makes fans wonder, what if Can had answered that call? What if he had come home that night? Would we be telling a completely different story today? The manager also addresses the endless media storm. They were hunted, he says. Every move they made was exaggerated. If they smiled, it was love. If they didn't, it was a breakup. They couldn't breathe without headlines twisting their lives. And at some point, both of them gave up trying to control the story. But here comes the biggest bombshell. The manager claims that Can, even years later, never truly moved on. He had other relationships, yes. He traveled, he worked, he smiled for the cameras. But in private, there was always a shadow of Demet. Always. And then he adds something that shakes everything. Even now, if you ask him about her, his eyes change. You can see it. She is still there, somewhere in his heart. Fans across the world are stunned by these revelations. Because while everyone believed the story was over, it seems it never really ended. Can Yaman's manager, a man who stood beside him through fame, scandals, and triumphs, has confirmed what fans always suspected but never dared to believe, that Can and Demet's love was real, that it hurt them both, and that it still lingers even today. So where does this leave us? According to the manager, the past cannot be changed. They made choices. Some were right, some were wrong. But what matters is that they felt something unforgettable. Something that people all over the world saw, because it was too real to be hidden. And as fans replay old interviews, old glances, old scenes from Erkenci Kuss, they now watch with new eyes, knowing that behind the acting, behind the lights, there was a story that was real. A story of love, of pain, of one unanswered call that could have changed everything. The world is stunned, and once again, Can Yaman and Demet Özdemir are at the center of it all. But this time, it's not fiction. It's the truth, finally revealed, but the revelations don't stop there. After breaking his silence, Can Yaman's manager also explained how the aftermath of the Can Demet saga shaped both of their careers and personal lives in ways fans never truly understood. He describes the period after their rumored breakup as the hardest time for Can. Though he smiled in interviews and posed with fans, the manager claims he often returned home in silence, refusing to talk for hours. He wasn't angry, the manager explains, he was empty. Fame gave him everything, but without her, it also took everything away. Demet, on the other hand, channeled her emotions differently. According to the manager, she poured her feelings into her work. Every new role she accepted, every performance she gave, was touched by traces of her hidden pain. When I saw her on screen, the manager admits, I knew she wasn't just acting. She was living her truth, expressing what she couldn't say out loud. And anyone who has loved and lost could feel it too. The silence between them was heavy, but it wasn't absolute. The manager recalls moments when fate almost brought them back together. At industry events, award shows, and even in the streets of Istanbul, they crossed paths. I remember one night, he says, they saw each other from across the room. For a second, the world stopped. They didn't speak, but their eyes said everything. Everyone else was clapping, celebrating, but they were somewhere else entirely, locked in that moment. And then came Italy. Can's move abroad was a turning point. It was supposed to be the fresh start that would free him from the past. Yet, the manager insists it only deepened the wound. Italy gave him new opportunities, yes. He became a superstar there. But every time he walked through the streets of Rome or Milan, every time fans shouted his name, there was always someone asking about Demet. He couldn't escape her shadow, not even across borders. Meanwhile, Demet faced her own crossroads. Rumors of her dating life flooded the media, but according to those close to her, none of those relationships had the depth she once shared with Can. The manager points out that she was searching, maybe unconsciously, for something she already had. But how do you replace a love that was never meant to end? The emotional weight of these confessions has left fans worldwide shaken. Social media has exploded with renewed discussions. Old photos of Can and Demet have resurfaced, and clips from Erkenci Kuss are trending again, with fans analyzing every smile, every touch, every lingering gaze. Many are asking the same haunting question, was their story really over, or is there still a chapter left unwritten? The manager closes his account with words that are as heartbreaking as they are powerful. Some loves don't need to last forever to be unforgettable. Can and Demet may never say it themselves, but they know what they had. And no matter what paths they take, they will always carry each other in their hearts. It's a revelation that feels less like gossip and more like a confession written in the hidden diary of their lives. And now, with the manager's words out in the open, the world is left stunned, wondering if maybe, just maybe, the story of Can Yaman and Demet Özdemir is not finished at all, but simply paused, waiting for destiny to play its final card.